Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm really excited to bring you today's video. If you enjoy my content, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Let's get started. Ginnie Springs, located in northwestern Florida, is renowned not only for its natural beauty, but also for its unique cave diving routes. This region attracts both experienced divers and cave explorers. Ginnie Springs offers a cave system filled with underground water passages, making it a paradise for diving enthusiasts. However, these underwater pathways can be extremely dangerous. Strong currents, narrow passages, and deep water areas create a challenging diving experience that requires expertise. For this reason, the team members meticulously prepared for their dive. In 2019, a team of the most experienced cave divers in the area set out to explore the depths of Ginnie Springs. Although each diver had a different background in diving, they were all well-versed in the challenges of cave diving and trusted one another. The team leader had spent many years cave diving and had worked with numerous experienced divers. Other team members had also previously dived under difficult conditions under his guidance. This particular dive aimed to make new discoveries and explore the region's unknown underwater pathways. The following morning, before heading to Ginnie Springs, the team conducted a final check of their preparations. The divers carefully inspected each piece of necessary equipment. The functionality of all diving gear was of utmost importance. Oxygen tanks, regulators, diving masks, wetsuits, and other specialized equipment were thoroughly examined. Additionally, navigation devices and lighting equipment played a crucial role in cave diving. All necessary safety measures were taken, and the team leader reviewed the planned route and the emergency protocols one last time. Once the preparations were complete, the team made their way to the riverbank entrance. The rocks at the water's edge marked the beginning of the depths below. One by one, the team members submerged into the water in a careful and coordinated manner. One of the most critical aspects of cave diving is ensuring that all members move in harmony with each other. The team advanced cautiously and with mutual trust. As they moved forward, their respect for the environment grew, knowing that the moment could turn into both a physical and psychological challenge. The underwater cave system concealed mysterious and uncharted areas. As the divers descended into the dark waters of the cave, the clarity of the surrounding water indicated just how deep they had gone. Each diver had mapped out a specific route for themselves. The team maintained a safe distance from one another, while keeping a watchful eye on each member's movements. However, in this type of dive, everything could change in an instant. Narrow passages and sudden shifts in the water flow posed potential dangers that divers always had to anticipate. The entire team followed the designated route set by the leader. However, cave diving is often unpredictable and can present unexpected risks. Throughout their underwater journey, the divers had to be extremely cautious at every turn and passage. Initially, everything was proceeding smoothly, and the team advanced without issues. However, after a few hours, they reached a section where the passageways narrowed. This area had increased water levels and stronger currents. It was a point where their initial confidence gave way to careful planning and coordination. Each diver started to adjust their movements more precisely to navigate the increasingly difficult environment, to ensure each other's safety as they moved through the dark depths. As they advanced further, the cave system became increasingly complex, resembling a labyrinth. Nevertheless, the team remained steadfast, relying on each other and carefully calculating their every move. Despite the harsh conditions, they never hesitated. Even with all the careful preparations and everything appearing to be in order, an unforeseen danger awaited them. The currents and narrow passages could pose challenges even for the most experienced divers. However, every member of the group was both physically and mentally prepared. Yet, deep within the cave, something was about to happen, something beyond their expectations and far beyond their preparations. At first glance, the waters of Ginnie Springs seemed calm and peaceful, but beneath the surface, powerful hidden currents lurked. As the team advanced, the water gently surrounded them, slowly pulling them deeper into the cave. The currents were not strong enough to hinder their movements, at least not yet. Everything seemed fine in the beginning. The team continued to move forward safely. with each diver following the designated route and beginning to explore the unknown regions of the cave. However, just a few minutes later, the strength of the water noticeably increased. The first signs of this change appeared when the current began to shift direction. The team was still moving at a normal pace, but now they had to exert more effort with every movement. The underwater turbulence was becoming more intense. Each diver had to work harder to maintain balance in the water. As they approached the narrow passages of the cave, the force of the current became even more pronounced. Experienced divers of today know very well that they must be cautious when navigating areas with strong currents. However, such situations can often develop unexpectedly fast. After a while, as the group approached the cave's narrower, more tunnel-like passages, the strength of the water became a much greater threat than they had initially anticipated. The water's movement was now making it difficult for the divers to advance. What had started as an easy dive was now turning into a struggle against the waves, which resisted them at every step. Every movement required more effort than the last. Despite this, the divers managed to cope with the challenge for a while. As the current grew stronger, the water sometimes unintentionally pulled them in different directions. The team leader closely monitored the distance between the divers, ensuring each member's safety. However, things quickly began to change. As the force of the current increased, maneuvering through the narrowing passages of the cave became increasingly difficult by the second in certain areas. The water channels suddenly became narrower, and in regions where the current was particularly strong, the divers were practically being dragged by the water. This was one of the most dangerous points in the cave system beneath the river. In these constricted passages, a diver getting lost was a matter of seconds. The divers were moving forward while staying connected to each other, but in such challenging passages, coordination within the group became even more critical. The divers who were progressing more slowly struggled to maintain their safety against the force of the accelerating current. The team leader soon realized that there was a separation within the group. The current had unintentionally pulled the team members apart. To ensure their personal safety, each diver had to carefully control their own direction. They were trying to move faster while also attempting not to lose sight of one another. The water was overwhelmingly strong against them, but the group members did everything they could to stay together. Suddenly, the team leader noticed that one of the divers was missing. The missing diver had been one of the first to sense increasing power of the current, but in an instant, at the point where the current speed surged, he lost control and was swept away by the force of the water. The other divers realized that the current had become much stronger and that they were struggling to move through the narrowing passage. However, at that moment, the realization that one of their own had disappeared made them question the safety of the entire group. The team leader immediately took action to search for the missing diver. However, the force of the water was so intense that the divers were forced to separate further as they advanced. The current rapidly carried them forward, while the narrowing tunnels created additional obstacles. Understanding that there was no time to waste in finding the lost diver, the team leader instructed the other divers to be extremely cautious and to do everything they could to stay together. The disappearance of the diver created deep concern among the team members. The rapidly intensifying current was placing them in an increasingly dangerous situation. But the greatest threat was the risk of getting trapped and losing their sense of direction in the areas where the current was strongest. At this point, the team broke formation and began searching for the missing diver. But the harsh reality was that another loss could occur at any moment in such extreme conditions. The team was determined to find their lost companion, but the strength of the current continued to increase with each passing second. At this moment, time had become the biggest enemy of the divers. Although the underwater cave was mesmerizing and worthy of exploration, it was equally deadly. As the currents grew stronger, the distance between the divers increased, and the carefully planned route that the team leader had been following became useless as the separated members struggled to reunite. Initially, the team had been conducting their dive as planned, just as they had done before. However, now everything had changed in the blink of an eye. As they progressed, the team began to realize that one of the divers was missing. At that moment, they had reached a point where they fully grasped how serious the situation could be. The missing diver's name was Jake. Jake was one of the most experienced divers on the team, but a sudden slip in the narrow passages of the cave, combined with the increasing current, had unexpectedly pulled him away. Initially, as the divers continued to move safely through the water, they all assumed that everyone was still in position. However, after a while, when they counted each other, they realized that Jake was missing. This was a clear alarm signal for the team. For several minutes, the team retraced their path in an attempt to find Jake, but he was nowhere to be seen. The current was so strong that finding someone lost underwater without assistance became nearly impossible. Recognizing the severity of the situation, the team leader checked on the other divers to ensure everyone's safety before deciding to initiate a search operation. Each diver began exploring different routes in the underwater labyrinth to look for their lost teammate. In the area where Jake had disappeared, the water had darkened and the intensity of the current had increased. There was little that could be done in such conditions. As they descended deeper, the divers realized that their visibility was significantly limited. Despite using powerful lights, the darkness inside the cave was overwhelming, and the thought of a lost diver made the situation even more terrifying with each passing minute. The divers were now racing against time to find their missing friend. Underwater rescue operations like these often required immediate action, as even minutes could make a significant difference, making speed crucial. After some time, the team reached the last known location of Jake, a deeper and narrower passage. However, there was still no sign of him. Their oxygen supplies were rapidly depleting, and as the divers struggled against the water pressure and the increasing difficulty of navigation, they desperately searched for a glimmer of hope. Pressing forward with difficulty, the team explored every dark corner of the tunnels in hopes of finding a trace of the missing diver. But each passage only deepened their despair. The increasing turbulence of the water made things even more complicated. It was becoming harder to see what lay ahead, and with every moment that passed, Jake's chances of survival diminished. A lost diver's survival chances depend on the surrounding conditions, but in such a deep and fast-moving area, survival was extremely limited. A diver trapped in such strong currents and depths might not make it if their oxygen tank ran out, or if the frigid water temperatures took their toll. The team realized that their missing friend's chances of survival were dwindling by the second. From the moment Jake had gone missing, time had only increased their sense of dread. The cold water was beginning to take a toll on their bodies. The darkness in the depths did not offer any clues. It seemed only to conceal everything further. The team leader decided not to waste any more time and pushed forward with deeper searches within the cave. They believed Jake had been pulled into an extremely deep and turbulent section of the system. As the current's force increased, the cave became even more complex. The group chose to stay a little longer, searching every possible corner. However, with each passing minute, they were reminded of how critical time was in such a situation. Everyone knew that a search and rescue operation for a lost diver needed to be conducted without delay. A person lost underwater was not only fighting against physical obstacles, but also the psychological pressure of the situation. It was clear that Jake's mental state could significantly impact his ability to survive. But one thing was certain. Every second that passed reduced his chances of survival. Despite their growing despair, the team was determined not to give up hope and did their best to bring their friend back. After a while, the team members decided to search more carefully near the area where Jake had disappeared. Battling against the darkness with every step, they meticulously scanned the surroundings, hoping to find a clue to his whereabouts. At this point, all they could do was move forward patiently and hold on to hope. After detecting a possible clue to Jake's location, the team members realized the gravity of the situation even more and made a difficult decision to surface and call for outside help. It was a tough choice because searching for someone lost deep in the cave was becoming more dangerous with every second. However, the team leader knew how valuable time was and felt that seeking assistance from outside was necessary to increase their friend's chances of survival. Staying inside the cave for an extended period had taken a toll on the team members, both physically and mentally. Therefore, exiting the cave to call for help was the most logical course of action. The air outside was vastly different from the intense tension they had experienced inside the cave. For the first time since surfacing from the depths, the team members were able to take in fresh air. However, not wanting to waste any time, The team leader immediately used the radio to call local emergency response teams for assistance. Rescuing a diver trapped in strong currents required not only experienced divers, but also specialized rescue teams. Meanwhile, the team waited for the rescue teams to arrive before re-entering the cave to continue the search for their lost teammate. Urgent Call mobilized expert cave rescue teams from Florida. These teams were highly experienced in cave rescue operations and had undergone extensive training to conduct search and rescue missions under extreme conditions. Among them were professionals, specializing in cave diving and technical rescue, each assigned to specific tasks. The first arriving rescue teams quickly deployed specialized equipment and vehicles to reach the deep cave sections. Before entering the cave, the rescue team meticulously took all necessary safety precautions. They were well aware that the strength of the currents and the narrow cave passages meant that even a single misstep could have severe consequences. Their specialized equipment included high-capacity oxygen tanks, deep-water diving vehicles, underwater lighting systems, and emergency medical supplies. Additionally, each rescue diver was not only skilled in underwater techniques, but also highly trained in navigating cave systems. These skills set them apart from conventional diving teams and enabled them to operate effectively in extreme environments. The team began their descent using one of the connection points established at the cave's entrance. However, this was only the first phase of the mission. As they descended deeper, they had to battle the powerful currents. The intensity of the water flow made underwater rescue operations even more challenging. Each team member carefully followed one another, maintaining communication through their devices. In the cave's narrow passages, they remained closely connected, as getting lost or separated in such an environment could be extremely dangerous. As the rescue teams advanced through the cave system, they retraced the paths previously taken by the missing divers team. Considering the strength of the currents, each rescue diver proceeded with extreme caution. The cave's tight and constricted passages required additional strength and focus with every movement. Navigating underwater in such areas was no easy task. Each rescue diver had memorized the cave's structure as if it were a map, knowing which points were critical. However, despite their knowledge, each new passage led them deeper into uncertainty. Their underwater journey was a battle on the thin line between life and death. The team carefully searched the narrowing passages for any sign of the missing diver. Every gap, every corner, and every direction within the cave could hold a glimmer of hope for someone left for dead. The rescue divers were prepared to use every possible method to save the lost diver. In addition to their specialized equipment, the team leader and the other divers decided to push further into the cave. Throughout the mission, safety measures were never overlooked. Despite the harsh conditions of the currents, the expert team was committed to taking every precaution, no matter how difficult the situation became. They were racing against time, as each passing minute further reduced the lost diver's chances of survival. Through underwater communication systems, the rescue team had to relay real-time updates to each other. If one of them got lost, their time to return would be significantly shortened. Finding the missing diver required careful attention to every detail, and getting separated in the dark, narrow passages posed a serious threat. With every passing moment, the rescue team moved forward with unwavering determination, refusing to lose hope of finding their lost comrade. Finally, the team approached the area where the missing diver was last believed to be. However, the location was extremely dangerous. The strong currents, combined with the depth of the water and the narrow passages, made the rescue operation even riskier. The rescue teams ensured that nothing was left to chance as they pressed on toward the area. Where the missing diver was located, the rescue team began navigating through the treacherous and deadly cave environment, each step becoming increasingly difficult. In this underwater labyrinth, time seemed to flow differently. The team had to carefully plan every movement to overcome narrow passages, deep water channels, and powerful currents. In the cave's dark and cold atmosphere, danger could emerge at any moment. This mission was not just a test of physical endurance, but also a mental challenge. Every diver had to move forward, not only for their own survival, but also to protect the rest of the team. Underwater, the team members were connected to each other. Communication was maintained through hand signals and underwater radios. Straying too far from one another meant risking separation, which could be fatal. The strength of the currents made it difficult for each diver to maintain direction, occasionally forcing them off course. However, instead of breaking their determination, these challenges only strengthened their resolve. Finding the lost diver was not just one person's responsibility, was the success of the entire team. The rescue teams descended several kilometers, battling the force of the currents as they pressed forward. However, the deeper they went, the more complex the underwater navigation became. Trusting one another, the divers carefully examined every passage and every turn. Every new corner, every tunnel could hold a clue about the missing diver. As the team ventured deeper than the last known location of the missing diver, the tension in the atmosphere increased even more. As time passed, the team's own survival also became a growing concern. With oxygen levels decreasing, each diver could take fewer breaths, and they began feeling the draining effects of the cold, dark environment. The currents were so strong that each step forward became progressively more difficult. In addition to their navigation and coordination skills, the divers had to cope with the emotional weight of the situation. Every second was crucial in determining the fate of the lost diver. As the team moved forward, they inched closer to the missing diver's last known location. Each step was filled with hope as they peered into the darkness, relying on one another to guide the way. To bring the missing diver back alive, the team had to demonstrate resilience with every passage they crossed. The deeper they went, the more their battle for survival became both a physical and mental ordeal. Then, at last, the most determined divers spotted their missing teammate. In the depths, nestled against a rock in a narrow, shadowed passage, the lost diver's body was found. A wave of relief swept over the team, but it was accompanied by an even greater sense of urgency. It was not immediately clear whether the diver was still alive. Without hesitation, the rescue team sprang into action to secure the missing diver. One thing was certain: if they didn't act fast, saving this person's life would become even more difficult. The rescue team immediately provided emergency oxygen and survival equipment. In the underwater environment, assessing the missing diver's condition was challenging. The current continued pushing against the diver's body, while the depth and the freezing temperatures made every step of the rescue increasingly critical. However, the team remained professional and composed, using their expertise to maximize the diver's chances of survival. As time passed, the question of how long the missing diver had endured became more pressing. Deep within the cave, with their oxygen supply depleted and their body weakened by extreme cold, the diver's resilience had been severely tested. Yet, through careful execution and unwavering determination, the rescue team managed to keep the lost diver alive. Every step of the operation was both a victory and a desperate struggle for survival. Finally, after a final coordinated effort, the team successfully brought the missing diver to the surface. The fact that the diver had survived was a monumental victory for the entire rescue team. However, this success was also a sobering reminder: diving was not just about technical skill and experience. It was a test of endurance, survival, and the limits of human resilience. This rescue operation was a testament to the courage, determination, and teamwork of the rescue team members. At the end of the mission, the missing diver was finally brought safely to the surface. The fact that they were found alive was a victory not only for the rescue team, but also for their fellow divers. However, this triumph was more than just a physical achievement. It was a symbol of survival and cooperation. The missing diver was immediately examined by medical personnel. At that moment, all eyes were on the diver's condition. After spending an extended period in deep water and enduring the effects of the cold, their body had gone into severe shock. The medical team quickly intervened, and while the diver's condition was serious, their survival seemed nothing short of a miracle. They were carefully monitored until their breathing and heart rate stabilized. Once the rescue team successfully extracted the missing diver, they also took careful steps to ensure the safe exit of the remaining divers. Psychological support was provided to assess if any of the divers had suffered injuries or emotional trauma. Cave diving was not only physically demanding, but also mentally exhausting, and incidents like this could leave a lasting impact on the team members' mental well-being. This incident not only highlighted the professionalism of the rescue team but also raised serious awareness about the dangers of cave diving. At popular cave diving sites like Ginny Springs in Florida, this event exposed a safety gap that had not been widely considered before. Following this ordeal, divers began to seek more information about the risks of cave diving and the necessary safety measures. The event prompted a reassessment of safety protocols for cave diving activities in the region. After the rescue operation, local authorities and diving schools reinforced specialized training programs and safety protocols. For cave diving, the cave systems around Ginny Springs underwent more frequent inspections, and educational programs for divers increased. New regulations were introduced regarding cave diving dangers, particularly for those attempting to dive in areas with strong currents. More information and preparation were required for anyone wishing to dive in these challenging environments. Following this event, a culture of safety quickly spread among divers. People came to understand that cave diving should only be undertaken by experienced and well-trained individuals. Additionally, the importance of enhancing the training levels of rescue teams and allocating more resources for such emergency situations became evident. The incident sparked a widespread awareness movement. Among both cave divers and the general public, the professionalism and unity of the rescue team were key factors in the successful outcome of this dramatic event. Divers witnessed firsthand how each team member relied on one another and fulfilled their roles to overcome challenges. The rescue team's strength was not just physical but emotional as well, an essential factor in saving the missing diver's life. Ultimately, this event provided a deeper understanding of the challenges and potential dangers of cave diving. In its aftermath, significant changes were made within the cave diving community, and the experience served as an important warning for other divers. Enhancing safety measures in popular locations like Ginny Springs became a critical step toward ensuring the well-being of every diver. After the incident, both the rescue team and the cave divers were once again reminded of the fine line between life and death, leaving a lasting impression on everyone involved. However, one undeniable truth remained. In higher-risk activities like this, safety and preparation must always come first. This event was not only a rescue success story, but also a powerful lesson on the importance of awareness and caution in cave diving.